Look, and I can tell you the winds are, as you mentioned before, relentless in terms of we get those strong, really, really strong gusts, and for a second or two we get a break, but it just continues, and that's what's making things tough here. We are starting to also see, obviously, because of the wind and the rain, water seep into the home where we're staying, and then, of course, throughout the night, we kept hearing the things sort of banging against the roof, which you presume are just debris that falls off from maybe the roofs of different houses or whatever may be out there. Let's go ahead and show you some of the video that photojournalist Brian Eli captured as we were getting daylight here in Remedios, Cuba, which is in the central northern coast of the island. We're told we're about 40 miles west of the eye, I should say. And you can see already some of the damage in the central square. A lot of trees down. You see a lamp there also on its side. And when I was talking to Brian about some of the things that we had seen before the storm and some of the things that we're now seeing during the storm, we did talk to a gentleman who was covering his AC. The AC was on the outside part of the home. Well, now Brian is reporting and telling me that the roof in that particular house, which is just a block from where we are, is completely gone, which I think are symptoms of a Category 5, Category 4 storms. He said that he saw some fencing also destroyed, and as you're seeing in this video, a lot of the shrubberies, a lot of the trees are now down in the center part of town. Let's remember, this is the sturdy part of town, so the damage is not as extensive, presumably, as when you get into the outskirts of town and you start dealing with structures that are not as sturdy as where we are, that are structures that are more susceptible to this kind of weather pattern that we're seeing as we speak.
Well, Hatzel, we are watching the radar right now, and we can just tell you that
we've been reporting a mass exodus of residents.
No surprise that you've been seeing that damage around, and you're absolutely correct. With roofs coming off, that does form a sign for us that definitely had the eye wall possibly moved through, since it was a Category 4, Category 5 hurricane at landfall last night, and then weakening to a Category 4, even though it's not really much of a weaken. And now we have it as a Category 3 hurricane, still a major hurricane, and it's because it's interacting with the landmass of Cuba. But boy, it is still bringing a lot of heavy rain, some very gusty winds. The eye wall is still so defined. We're looking at it on the radar, and we know that hurricane force winds extend out from that eye 70 miles, and I know that you're close to that, so unfortunately you're dealing with that. And also you've been dealing with probably tropical storm force winds for hours, because how large this system is. We have tropical storm force winds that extend out 195 miles per hour. So not only have you been dealing with that wind, but you've been dealing with the rain, and it's unfortunate because it doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. The system is very slow moving.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how fast it's moving at this hour, but as you mentioned, the winds have been strong for quite some time. The first real gusts that we got which were concerning, were around 7 o'clock in the evening. And from there was a bit of a lull, but at around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, it started back up, and it has not given up. I mean, overnight, you could hardly pause at any point and really realize that this was not going to end. It just hasn't. It's been consistent, and now we're still seeing the effects of Irma here in Remedios, which again, it's in the central northern coast, and I'm not sure if you can show a map, but we're right close to the coast, not on the coast. That's the concern, though, because the storm surge and how that's going to affect places like Caibarin, which is a small fishing village that we've been really reporting on. But again, we're also seeing the damage here in Remedios. Brian talking to me about the one roof being gone at the place where we were just yesterday talking to the owner, because it's a hostel, and that he was covering his AC, which is outside, thinking that was going to be damaged. Obviously, that gentleman dealing with much more than he thought.
Well, Hatzavela, we are going to leave you for now, but we want you to hang on, because we're going to want to check back in with you as the conditions continue there in Cuba. We were going to toss to the National Hurricane Center, but it looks as though they are not ready yet. Hey, Luke, let's take a look at the radar here so we can see how much rain and the wind gust. Actually, we've noticed, if you guys want to take max 42, we can show you. We are seeing wind gusts reported in the 20s right now, 23-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Also noticing those heavy bands that have continued to push on shore for us here in South Florida. This rainfall is not going anywhere anytime soon, my friends. Even though you may see a break in the rainfall for a moment, we're going to continue to see those showers and storms feeding in off the western Atlantic, all because of Hurricane Irma. And again, there's lots of questions and lots of answers. I know a lot of you are seeing some of the rain bands and you're thinking, oh, okay, is this it? This is Irma? And we're trying to tell you, no, my friends, this is just the beginning. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, it's a long way away. It's it's in Cuba right now. Hatzel's going through, experiencing the core of the storm, the eye wall, and it extends all the way here into South Florida. So it stretches all the way across those Florida Straits and brings us some of these gusty showers. Now, in spots, I know that we have had even hurricane force wind gusts already in the Keys. That was just a matter of about a half hour or so ago. That's not consistent. That's not widespread. Not everybody's getting that, but at times these will produce big bursts of winds, and then you're going to catch a lull, just like he's got even closer to the core in northern Cuba. So just keep that in mind, and as we go through the day, this storm will move closer to South Florida. The closer that, there's two things producing winds here. One is how close you are to the core of circulation, just flat distance. How far away are you from it? The second part will be the showers embedded within the hurricane itself. So sometimes they'll combine and you'll get these bursts of winds up to 74 miles per hour already. And at the moment, they're about 44 in Homestead, near 40 at MIA. They're near 40 in Fort Lauderdale. Pembroke Pines is at 43 as I look at my map right now. Kendall's at 29. So we're experiencing gusty winds. This is just the beginning of what's going to be a stormy day. It's going to be a wet day. It's going to be a windy day.
Yeah, and we've been preparing you for this, so we don't want you to think, oh, I'm shocked that we're going to see this. It's only going to get worse. We are expecting the possibility of hurricane force winds starting as early as tonight and going into tomorrow morning for more widespread areas. You know, some only areas seeing it this morning. You said right by the Keys. We just had that report about 20 minutes ago. Well, unfortunately, things are going to get worse before they get better, and that's what we've been basically trying to bring home the message for you here in South Florida. Same with you in Broward. I know a lot of you in Broward are saying to yourself, oh, I've got some isolated showers. As we widen the view, we've got all this rain expected to move into South Florida, all associated with Hurricane Irma. So it's well on its way, and we need to be prepared and stay prepared.
Yeah, and we're going to be checking back in with Hatzel soon.
And while we're waiting for the NHC, can we give you a viewer question? I don't know if we've covered this yet. How bad can flooding get if I lived next to a canal in Miami?
As bad as you would be if you were on the coast. That's what happens a lot in South Florida. Max Mayfield will talk to you extensively about this, and that's why we saw earlier, we were going through, if we can take graphics 42, guys, I want to show you, you can still see it though, it's not looking as severe as it was previously. Still storm surge is likely as we get into near the Miami River. So this will show up on the map quite well, but if you're on a canal or one of these cuts, yeah, you will certainly see the water push up through those canals. Usually, you know, water's flowing out into the ocean. It just reverses as we see storm surge. And you can see that with 3 to 6 feet of possible storm surge right through here as you get west of Northwest 27th. And there's a live picture that we have of Haulover Beach. And yeah, stormy for us, of course, and the surf is up. So to answer that question, yes, you will still see surge.
Okay, lots of canals in South Florida, so a lot of viewers want that answer. Thank you so much for that. You're looking at live pictures now of Haulover Beach. For those of you familiar with this area, this is the area a lot of people go to fly the kite. And this isn't too far from the sandbar. A lot of people park their boats and enjoy our beautiful South Florida days. That's not going to happen for a couple of days. We are currently watching the effects of Hurricane Irma moving on shore, and we are seeing those bands, and they are moving all across South Florida. Look at those waves. You know, our meteorologists have been talking about storm surge and flooding. You can see those white caps and those waves just stirring up the surf. It is going to get nasty out there as the conditions continue to worsen throughout today and really get bad tomorrow.
Let's take you from a ground shot to some of our tower cams as we get an overall bird's eye view of what is happening right here in South Florida. Here's a look from our Mount Sinai Medical Center tower cam. It is gray. You can see the rain is coming down, and you can see the shaking on that camera as we shift now to our Miami tower cam. And again, the scenes are going to be like this now for quite some time.
Yeah, 8:46, 81 degrees. A quick check right there on our temperature and our time. Now you're looking at our Hollywood Beach cam. This is right on the Broad Walk. And look at those waves out there. Laren Livingston is at that live location, said he saw somebody swimming out there. Obviously, that is the worst thing you can do as we have a major hurricane headed in our direction. You're going to see those palm trees get a whole lot more active as those winds continue to increase. Luke and Julie talking about hurricane force winds affecting all of us here in South Florida in the days to come.
Yeah, the impact zone for those hurricane force winds is so wide that no matter what that cone does, we are going to feel some very heavy winds, no matter where you are right here in South Florida. We have plenty of information to get into your brain about what is happening in the shelters in Broward County. It just comes into our newsroom and we bring it to you. We have some updates on the shelter situations. Officials in Broward County have just informed Christy Kruger that Parkside Elementary is now at capacity. So you can take Parkside Elementary off of that list in case you were still thinking about finding shelter.
Only 2 shelters still accepting people. That's Coconut Palm in Miramar and Lakeside Elementary in Pembroke Pines. Lakeside Elementary is at 900 Northwest 136. 900 Northwest 136th Avenue. There you go. Coconut Palm Elementary School is at 13601 Monarch Lakes Boulevard. Okay, I want to make sure I told you the addresses, but also be aware that Lakeside in the Pines, that is the one that accepts pets as long as you have the proper papers. So I imagine that would mean just your up-to-date shots. Just keep in mind the only shot that is required in the county is rabies, so also that would be on your dog or cat's collar.
Broward's set to give us a news conference with some more updated information at 9 a.m. We're going to bring that to you as it happens right here on Local 10. We're also waiting to hear from Governor Rick Scott. He is set to talk at 9:15. He's going to be in Sarasota, and that clearly is now a place that is in the impact zone as we see that cone shift to the west. Governor Scott is going to be giving us an update from pretty much right there.
Yeah, we have friends and family in Tampa. They are waiting and bracing for this storm to head in their direction. While we have you for a moment, just be aware we have 24,000 outages, power outages. That's from Florida Power and Light in Miami-Dade County, less than 1,000 in Broward. So Broward is faring better. Those numbers will tick up. We'll keep an eye on them for you and let you know how that goes. Just so you know, though, if you're thinking, okay, I already lost power, is it going to go back on? No, they cannot get back in and fix power until after the storm is over.
If you were with us just a few minutes ago, you saw we were talking with CNN's and our reporter Patrick Ottman. He was talking with us live and got hit with a piece of debris. He is okay, but we want to show you exactly what happened, primarily to see just how quickly this can happen and why you do not want to be outside in any stretch or any reason, especially when those winds are at their tropical force level or certainly tropical storm force level, or certainly when they're at their hurricane force level. Yeah, when we start dealing with these storms and these bands moving in and the rough weather, sometimes we can't even use our equipment properly. We're getting a lot of our reporters through Skype. They're having to use their own cell phones. Pretty amazing what we can do when we have to do it and keep you aware of everything that's going on all across South Florida. Ian Margol is in Florida City. Let's see how things are looking down there right now.
Hey guys, I'm actually holding my hand over the microphone because it's windy enough that it's actually hard for me to hear you. Take a look at this, though. About 10 minutes ago or so, we got hit with another one of those bands, and it's passed over. But check this out. It just snapped this completely in half. There we go. I'm trying to get this. There we go. It snapped off these palm fronds. I mean, that's not even – it didn't even rip it from the base. It just snapped it in half. Same thing over here. And it's these are the 2 parts of the same palm frond. And you can see there's just a bunch of them. There's another one there. There's another one here. Just absolutely snapped off. These were definitely the strongest gusts that we had seen so far. My phone keeps turning sideways on me. Sorry, guys. There we go. So these were definitely the strongest gusts we've seen so far. And what's been really cool is we can see to the southeast. So we can see these bands coming in as they do. So we're getting a little bit of a break right now. We had lightning a little bit too close, so we had to bring our satellite truck down. But for right now, when having this little break, we could see these clouds coming in. And not only is it just an unbelievable sight to see, but you can really just tell how strong this storm, because this is obviously just the very beginning, and it's blowing trees around like they're toothpicks at this point.
Okay, Ian Margol, thank you for that update. Let's get you to Hollywood. That is where Laren Livingston has been standing by. He's right there on the Broadwalk, and the conditions have rapidly deteriorated. Every single time we see Laren, it looks a little bit worse. Laren, what do you see?
And I'll tell you, Eric, when we got here this morning, it was a little calmer, it was a little quieter, a little gusty, and as the sun rose, the wind speeds rose. It got choppier out here off of the Hollywood Broadwalk here at Polk Street. The waves got more wider, I should say. It got windier. The palm trees started to sway a little bit more, and we're seeing fewer people out on the Broadwalk walking around than we saw. But then we saw this group here. Looks like they're just being extremely resourceful right now. They've been shoveling up sand here. A lot of it's been drifting up onto the beach. They're waving at us now, basically taking advantage of the sand here, the free sand, bagging it up. More than likely they're going to take that to wherever they need to take it and use it should the water or flooding become a concern. And that's what we've been hearing from a lot of folks we've been speaking with overnight and this morning. That's what their main concern is here, who live along the Broadwalk here in the Hollywood area by the Intracoastal Waterway. They're concerned more so with what potentially could come from out there and then flow across the beach and across the Broadwalk here and ultimately into the streets of Hollywood. There's a lot of homes, there are a lot of businesses, there are a lot of parking lots and garages just on the other side of the Broadwalk here, which is pretty much desolate right now. You look up there, a lot of these folks started tying things down days ago. You can see the boards up, sheets of plywood up, there are shutters up, metal shutters up. There's a lot of condos and apartments down this way as well, and a lot of those places look like they are sealed up, and you see more people coming out here right now. They come, take out their cell phones like this gentleman's doing here, take pictures of what's going on, but basically there's a hurricane not too far from where we are, just south of where we are. You look that way, it's a lot lighter there, but as you pan south here down the Broadwalk, it gets a little darker down there, and that's where this storm is doing a lot of damage potentially. We just heard from our colleagues there in Cuba. We're hearing from our colleagues down further south in Florida City, Homestead area. And I found it interesting. We were sitting in the truck watching the monitor, watching our Weather Authority meteorologists just talk about what's going on with those bands. And as you see it circle, we're kind of sitting just north of where the green and the yellow and the red stop. That's why we're not seeing a lot of rain here, because it's just south of us. And I found that quite interesting, just how much of a difference just a few miles make when it comes to the intense wind and rain, and then right now just intense wind that we're seeing. I know that last check we were hearing these gusts here were anywhere close to 30 to 40 miles per hour. Hollywood police just drove by. Every once in a while we will see some first responders coming by. I think they're just making their rounds, making sure nobody's doing anything that they shouldn't be doing in these conditions right now. Haven't heard any reports of anything like that, but every once in a while we'll see a police car or a firefighting vehicle come across. There's a gentleman there running on the beach. Earlier this morning we saw someone actually go out into the water. That's some very choppy water out there. Not sure what inspired him to do so. I don't think that's something that I would advise. Eventually he came back up onto shore here, but right now it's just the wind we're dealing with here. And when I tell you the wind gusts will come, we were talking about it earlier this morning, it ebbs and flows, and all of a sudden you just feel stinging sand up against your face. It feels almost like sleet or ice hitting your face like in a blizzard, and thankfully we're not wet right now. I can just imagine if the rain was falling here just the same and how that would be pelting us right now. But that's potentially what is on its way, because Irma is out that way and Irma is coming closer to us here in South Florida, and so all of what Irma could potentially bring is headed this way. And so when the rain comes and when those higher winds come, I can only imagine what these gusts will feel like, not just here on the coastal areas, but of course down further south there in Florida City, Homestead, especially down in the Keys, of course, where our colleagues are in Cuba. Just want to make sure people are as safe as possible. Talked to a lot of folks here, and they say they're just kind of hunkering down, those who stayed here and did not leave this area just because they felt that where they were was secure enough. But again, their main concern was what the floodwaters could potentially do and how those could potentially impact life here and getting around here. And so right now, top of mind, A little bit of wind, but a lot of bit of what this water could do if it comes across, and what may happen if the storm surge is as high, if not higher, than what is predicted. JC, Eric.
All right, Laren Livingston live for us in Hollywood, giving us a really good idea of how things are changing so rapidly now that this storm is upon us.
We're getting all kinds of pictures into the Local 10 newsroom. Let's show you this. This is 22400 Old Dixie Highway in Miami. This is Cauley Square area by Gold's. Janice Fernandez is headed this way, where you can see it looks like a tree. I think a massive tree branch has fallen on the top of that white truck. So we're going to get Janice Fernandez down there to tell you what happened, whether or not that driver is doing okay, and what that scene looks like right now. By the way, if you have pictures, you are certainly seeing the weather in your neighborhood, send them to us, share at local10.com.
Okay, now we are going to Zoo Miami and how they were preparing all the animals to weather this storm. They were moving them to sheltered locations, so like the places where they go for their nighttime enclosures. You can see right there, it was a mass effort to move all the animals. Jungle Island did this. South Florida Wildlife Center did this. Our local shelters for dogs and cats had to do this as well. So you can imagine all the animals have to be kept in a safe spot just like we do. And I just wanted to reiterate, as Eric was showing those pictures from Cauley Square, this is just the beginning of this storm. We have a long Saturday ahead and a long Sunday, and we're expecting it to just get worse and worse and worse. Luke and Julie will be talking about that in just about 2 minutes at the top of our 9 o'clock hour.
And we have several different pictures that we're showing you from all across our tower cams. The video from Zoo Miami, though, is really interesting, because do you know where do they put those animals once they get them into those enclosures? Do they keep them there on zoo property? Do they move them to somewhere else? Because I think this is something that a lot of people wonder. We talk about pet shelters all the time. Mm-hmm. This is a different animal, for lack of a better word, because you're dealing with all sorts of different species and trying to rescue and keep them safe.
That's right. Zoo Miami, from their original plans, it looked like they were just going to move most of the animals into safe cages and structures on the inside, and we talk about those safe structures. And at 7 a.m., they invited Local 10 over there so they could see how they go about and do this. Some shelters have different ways of doing things. We do know, I've told you before, Humane Society of Broward County shipped about 500 animals over to California to keep them safe from this storm, with a Category 5 bearing down on South Florida. That was a huge turn, while Bahamian animals came over to us, because you're kind of picking the safest spot to be depending on where you're at and how vulnerable you are. And you can see right here, there's Zoo Miami, and they're taking those animals from the outside cages and bringing them into the the movable cages, sure, and then taking them inside, so where they would go for nighttime. And for a vulnerable situation like this, you don't want to have those animals outside dealing with the elements. So it's really interesting to see everybody, every single one of us, four-legged friends, furry, feathery friends, we all have to deal with this hurricane upon us.
South Florida, we have all kinds of situations brewing right now. The weather is getting nasty out there. We have thousands and thousands of power outages. We have tens of thousands of people who are in shelters in both Miami-Dade and in Broward counties. We are soon going to hear not only from the Broward Emergency Operations Center, but also from Governor Rick Scott. All that should happen in the next 15 to 20 minutes. And when it does, we'll have it all for you right here on Local 10, as you are seeing several different shots from all throughout our community right here in South Florida. We are bracing, and we are beginning to see the outer bands, and we are feeling the effects of Hurricane Irma. This is a massive storm, and we are just getting started.
It is 9 a.m. We are tracking Hurricane Irma. For you, this is a dangerous Category 4 storm. Let's go over the details. We want you to be prepared for this. We are under a hurricane warning, a storm surge warning, and flood watch. It is all in effect for you in South Florida. Good morning, everyone. I'm JC Birch.
Hi, I'm Eric Yutzi. We're going to be here with you 24/7 on Local 10. Pretty soon, we're going to start to feel the sustained tropical storm force winds. That should happen this afternoon, and we're seeing a big gust. Look, and that's not what we're talking about when we even talk about the tropical storm force winds. It's going to get even more progressively dangerous out there. And we do have power outages all over the place. When that happens to you, you want to put one of these radio stations on the radio that you've got ready with your batteries. 790 The Ticket, 101.5 Light FM, 104.3 The Shark, 102.7 The Beach, and Pirate Radio in the Keys, 96.7 or 101.7.
As long as you have your tablet, your smartphone, your laptop, whatever's working, you can follow us on the web. We will be live streaming our newscast until Irma is no longer a threat. And once again, that will be on our app as well. We have our Weather Authority team working for you and bringing you the latest on Irma. That's meteorologist Luke Doris and Julie Durda. And both of you, I want to stress right now, people are already asking, oh, there's a lull in the storm. There's no rain. I lost my power. Can I turn my generator on? Can you emphatically tell them what a problem that will be and how we have to wait till the end of this storm?
Yes, indeed. We have to wait because this is just the beginning, JC. This isn't even the meat and potatoes, as we would say, of this monster of a storm. We're seeing the outer feeder bands moving into South Florida. They are packing a punch. We've been getting wind gusts reported in the 50s and 60s. We've been seeing power outages, down trees. Again, this is just the beginning. Let's take a look at this monster storm right now spinning over Cuba. Again, it is hugging just the northern edge of Cuba and made landfall last night over Cuba and continues to bring heavy rain and gusty winds to Cuba as well as us here in South Florida and the Bahamas. 8 a.m. advisory, the immediate advisory had winds at 130 miles per hour, gusts 190, pressure 937 millibars. It's moving to the west on the northern coast of Cuba at 12 miles per hour, located 225 miles south of Miami. And what we're noticing on the forecast path, it will head westward and continue along the coast of Cuba before taking that turn to the north. Now, again, JCU, I mentioned people are writing us on Twitter and Facebook, hey, I'm out of the cone, so does that mean everything's okay? Absolutely not. You know why? Because you people that are looking at this line and seeing you're out of the cone, hey, some of you are writing me telling me that you're seeing wind gusts in the 50s. So this storm is so large, it is going to impact us whether you're inside the shaded line or outside the shaded line. As you can see, where the forecast cone has the system possibly making landfall over the lower Keys, tropical storm force winds extend out from the center 190 miles. So that's all of South Florida, stretching all the way up towards Tampa. Hurricane force winds extend out from the center 70 miles. Again, that means we are going to see the possibility of hurricane force winds. That is why we're under a hurricane warning, and we're expecting that as early as tonight. As we get to the satellite, you can see the system very large, a bit raggedy compared to what we've seen before. You can tell that the outer bands wrapping around the center of Irma have been somewhat torn apart because of the interaction with land, but don't let that fool you either. The system is expected to move over the very warm waters of the Atlantic, sea surface temperatures in the upper 80s and low 90s, and that could help fuel for it to strengthen. We are going to see as we break into Broward Presser right now.
Yeah, Julie, we're going to go to the Broward County Emergency Operations Center. Here's Mayor Barbara Sharif.
Warning and storm surge warning. However, the storm track has shifted slightly west. That does not mean that Broward County residents should let their guard down. Irma is a huge and dangerous storm system that continues to pose a threat to all of South Florida. We expect 10 to 20 inches of rain, and the first line of thunderstorms are coming onshore now. Storm surge is estimated at 4 to 6 feet. We will expect high winds and some storm surge flooding with the possibility of tornadic activity. According to the National Weather Service, the worst part of the storm for Broward County will occur from 4 a.m. to approximately 9 p.m. on Sunday. We currently have 14,190 residents who have chosen to come to one of our 21 shelters that Broward has opened. Also, more than 1,000 persons in our community experiencing homelessness have been safely sheltered. Many of the shelters are at capacity. If you choose to evacuate to a shelter, you should go to one of the 2 new shelters just opened this morning. Lakeside Elementary School at 900 Northwest 136th Avenue in Pembroke Pines, or Coconut Palm Elementary located at 13601 Monarch Lakes Boulevard in Miramar. It's important to note that Lakeside Elementary is also a pet-friendly shelter. So if you have allergies or sensitivities to pets, please choose Coconut Palm Elementary instead. Please remember, if you're going to a pet-friendly shelter, you must bring supplies for both you and your pet. The crate, food, bowls, leash, water, cat litter, pan, toys, and any medication and vaccination documents. For those of you coming to a shelter, Please help us and help your fellow residents out. Remember that room at the shelter is limited. Bring the items you need to ensure your comfort, but please do not bring excessively large or cumbersome items. We've had reports of some folks bringing king-size mattresses, mini refrigerators, and the shelters just do not have room for these types of items. Thank you for your cooperation in advance. There are 3 cities in Broward that had scheduled bulk pickups that the carrier did not complete. The impacted cities are Miramar, Pembroke Pines, and Deerfield Beach. We ask the residents of those cities who place bulk items at the curb for pickup to please bring them back inside and secure them as best you can right now. These items will not be picked up before the storm arrives. In transportation updates, Broward County Transit has discontinued service and will resume as soon as weather conditions allow. Port Everglades is closed. Fuel deliveries have currently stopped, but storm reserve supplies are in place and deliveries will resume as soon as petroleum companies can reopen and it's safe for truck drivers to be on the road. Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport is closed today and Sunday. Please check with your airline or cruise line carrier for updates. Irma is expected to result in widespread and extended power outages. Outage and restoration information is available by calling 1-800-4OUTAGE or 1-800-468-8243. I just want to say thank you to our amazing staff, volunteers, and community partners. The very organized effort would not be possible without them. Our goal during these types of catastrophic events is to prevent the loss of life, and as your mayor, I'm very proud of the way our community has responded to this event and very encouraged based on the evacuations that residents are taking this storm seriously. They say that all disasters are local. In the spirit of community, I urge residents to reach out to neighbors or people that you think may be vulnerable and need assistance in completing final preparations and in a recovery effort. The Broward County Emergency Hotline is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer your questions. You can call 311 from within Broward or 954-831-4000. The hotline has assisted over 19,000 callers since Tuesday. Visit broward.org/hurricane or Twitter @ReadyBroward or sign up for the Alert Broward text messaging system and we will keep you apprised of everything that's going on with the storm. You can include us on Facebook @Broward EMD to keep current on our situation. With me today at the podium, I have Juliette Roulette from FPL, I have FEMA, and I have the EPA here, as well as the Broward Sheriff. We are working together very hard to ensure the safety of the Broward residents. At this time, I'm going to invite Juliette Roulette from FPL to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. As we are getting closer to the storm, anxieties are raising up. And I want to be here to assure you that FPL is doing all it can to assure that everything will be in place for a proper restoration. We have over 13,000 workers in place ready to respond and restore your power after the storm. Some of you are already experiencing outages, and that is going to be, as hard as it is to know, it is going to happen. Some of you may experience outages before the storm arrives fully, because the outer bands are starting to impact us with weather conditions. Please understand that that is expected, and we are doing everything we can to make sure we keep you advised. All of us are here to help. I myself will be riding and staying here at the EOC through the storm, and FPL will have a presence here so that we can give you as much updated information as possible. We know information is important to our customers, and we are here for you in that regard. Please remember to be safe. It is so important that you are all in your homes now and really trying to be safe. There are tips that we have given in the past that I would really like to remind you about. After the storm, please do not go near any standing water where there are power lines down. If you see a power line down, do not approach it. Please call the 1-800 number that was provided. And I ask you and implore you, please be safe. Thank you.
I would like to at this time invite our Broward Sheriff forward for a few remarks. Broward Sheriff.
Thank you, Mayor. Broward County, put simply, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of this community. You've remained vigilant and resilient. We've driven the streets. Very few cars are out there. Citizens have taken evacuation warnings very seriously. Our shelters are starting to get full. You're listening and you're doing what needs to be done. I just want to go over a few things once the storm passes and we have the aftermath. Stay, as Juliet said, stay away from standing water and power lines. Call the 1-800 number. When you fire up those generators, make sure those generators are outside. They emit poisonous gases. They're colorless and odorless, and you won't know that, and somebody can, die from inhaling these gases. Very serious. Make sure the generators are outside. The Broward Sheriff's Office, we will continue to patrol the streets of Broward County until wind speeds reach 45 miles an hour. As I said before, at that time, we will call out firefighters and we will call out deputies. We will wait till the roads are drivable, and then we will begin answering 911 calls and calls for service. Take care of your neighbors, take care of each other. As the mayor said, do not drop your guard. This is a time to be more vigilant than ever. The storm did kick a little bit west, but we are going to get punched by this storm. Make sure you stay inside, and as I said yesterday, find the room in your home that's most safe, the one with no windows. Find that room and bring your entire family into that room when the wind speeds reach their highest and we're under hurricane, and we're actually getting hit by the hurricane. Do not return to your homes. Do not think once the storm passed that you're able to. Well, there'll be trees down, there'll be power lines down, there'll be a plethora of things for public safety and government to deal with. Make sure you monitor social media, monitor the TV, monitor the radio, call the informational numbers. Make sure you do not return until it is safe to return, because we don't want accidents there. As a community, let's come together. We are going to have power outages. We are going to have property damage. Let's make sure our death toll stays at 0. Again, I'm very proud of Broward County. I'm very proud of the men and women of the Broward Sheriff's Office. Sworn, non-sworn, fire, detention, DLE. They've done an amazing job, and we will continue to do an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. At this time, I just want to say that this has been a concerted, very, very collaborative team effort. On behalf of my colleagues at the Broward County Commission, I have Vice Mayor Beam Fur with me today. I have Commissioner Michael Udine with me today. And all of my colleagues have been on the ground at shelters and in the communities, ensuring that people are transported to the shelter safely and ensuring that we have capacity for all the people who want to be sheltered. I can't thank Broward County enough for really collaborating and joining together to meet the needs of every resident in our community. I want to thank the community for listening to us, and I want to thank those who have evacuated safely, and for those who are still in areas that you may think are prone to flooding. I want you to consider right now evacuating to our shelter. This storm is going to hit us. It may not hit us as hard as we'd expected initially, but it still will hit us. And so I'm asking for your cooperation in that. We thank you, and at this time I'll conclude the press conference. Are there any questions?
Just a quick follow-up from earlier. The king-size mattress that was brought to a shelter, was that an actual mattress or an air mattress?
We've had both.
Are there any plans right now to open additional shelters?
As needed, on an as-needed basis.
That are open only in the southwest portion of the county.
We are staffing our shelters with volunteers, and we're trying not to burn out our volunteers because we know we will need them post-storm. So we are opening shelters as needed based on population. Next.
Have there been any problems reported in any of the shelters so far?
Other than just oversized stuff, refrigerators, the king-size mattress, blow-up mattresses, things that are just chairs, things that are too big to fit in the spaces that we've allotted per person. But everything else has been pretty orderly.
And right now, you think you have sufficient space for the shelters that are currently open?
Yes, we believe we have sufficient space. We've actually got thousands of spaces open right now. And so as people come in and we feel the need, we'll open up more shelters. But remember, we still have a capacity on the others, and we opened up 2 more that gives us over 1,150 between the 2.
So the other 19 are not full. We've been told that they were full.
We say that they're full, but we have 25, 30, 40 spaces, so we have capacity.
Do you know what the overall capacity is of all the shelters that are open right now?
20,000. The overall capacity of the shelters that are open right now is around 20,000. And currently, like I said before, we have